Hiking seems peaceful, until you realize you're not alone. These 3 true horror stories will make you question every rustling leaf, every snap of a twig, and every shadow lurking just beyond the trees. Watch if you dare, but don't say we didn't warn you. I'm Ben Calloway. I'm 31, but not for so long. I've been hiking since I was a teen. I live in Denver, Colorado, and spend most weekends exploring new trails. Still, since some unfortunate incident last summer, I don't go for hikes alone anymore. A warm afternoon was the right time when I took off on my usual route around Pike National Forest in late July. It was well built and quite easy to navigate, nothing out of the ordinary. It was while I was about 5 miles in that I saw a rather weird thing. There were human footprints that appeared then disappeared onto an encumbered, barely visible path into the woods. What got my attention was the fact that they were really fresh. I could swear someone was in the vicinity minutes earlier. My curiosity took over as I went off-road to track down the footprints. The farther I went, the more I could see that everything was getting quieter. I could hear no animals, nor wind. It was like I was the only living thing there, just my own breathing. After an hour, I saw something that made my nightmare scenario reality. The footprints. They were simply no more. The person did not even turn around or fight. It was really scary, just sort of the footprints ended. I could not move at all until I got goosebumps on my arms. Something was not right around me. I thought that was enough of the place and turned to head back. All my senses were alert in an instant. I saw that my footprints had vanished completely. I had gone through that path just a few minutes ago and had left obvious footprints in the dirt. However, there was nothing now. It was as if the land had swallowed them up. I felt a shiver run down my spine. My mind was racing. I tried to come up with a logical explanation. Maybe the dirt was loose. Maybe the wind had shifted the dust. Maybe rustling somewhere behind me. Then footsteps, fast, coming toward me. I had no time to think. I just ran. To be honest, the decision of the route was not one that used to worry me. It was only the main trail that I was stuck on, and that was all that had to be done. I struggled through jungle grass with all the impetus I put on me. The vulnerable flow seemed to be building a wall of fear about me. I felt that the steps getting closer and closer behind me. A rat-a-tat-a-tat-ting sound of very distinct rhythm struck my ears, slow and spasmodic, like someone running at full recklessness. And then, silence. Not even one footstep sound. No rustling. Even though I didn't cease running. I kept on with it until I managed to break into the lighted avenue again. The ripping of the trails through rugged Colorado terrain was so tiring that my legs were about to bend, but I insisted and looked over my shoulder at last. The path that I was walking on before was not there anymore. There did not appear to be any clear change in the tree canopy. There was no refreshed way next to the old one. The woods were there, closing the distance. If you blinked, it was gone, as if it was never built in the first place. Still trembling, I stood there trying to catch my breath with the air eluding me. My hands had begun to tremble intensively. The thought of my being disoriented spurred me on. I told myself. I convinced myself the entire thing never happened. Odds on the fact was that, to be honest, I wasn't telling myself the truth. After a few days, I was looking at the local news when a headline that made me feel sick came up. Hiker still missing after disappearing near Pike National Forest. When I clicked on the article about a guy of about my age who got lost a few days before my trip, the only thing that the search parties found was a piece of his footwear. A single shoe, put in a straight line on the ground, looked to the trees. My name is Chris Walters, and I'm 29 years of age. I live in the city of Sacramento in the state of California. A girl named Mia and I have in common our fondness of hiking. One example took place last fall. which was a weekend trip to Yosemite. It was meant to be a travel of joy, but it turned out to be the most scary experience in my life. The plan in the morning to hike and spend the night in one of the backcountry sites seemed quite feasible. The first hours, it was just the best. No clouds, the weather was nice, and hardly any other hikers. Towards the late afternoon, as the sun was setting down, we walked by a group of people camping around a fire. There was a strangeness about them that I noticed, and that didn't go away. A majority of them just looked like people enjoying the outdoors, but one man stood out. He was sitting just a bit away from the group, not looking at the fire. The clothes he was wearing were dirty and old, looking like they were something from an old film. His hair was long, matted, and tangled. However, the one thing that got me really disturbed was his face. Blank, no emotion at all. Mia's hand was tight on my arm while we walked past. When we were out of the earshot, she whispered, "Did you see that guy? He was watching us." I hadn't noticed him staring up, but I felt something was wrong about him, and it caused discomfort. I laughed and told her that he probably just likes being alone, and we continued with our walk. The night was the place where we set up our camp in a small spot. It was very silent. So quiet that even the crickets, the leaves fell silent. Only the silent happened then. Footsteps, somewhere we couldn't see, slow, discreet, as our tent was being circled. She grabbed my arm and her nails dug into my skin. I took my knife and very carefully unzipped the tent to see outside. My gut froze. It was him, the man from the campfire. He just stood there, quiet as a mouse. His face was completely white, nearly the color of the moon. His eyes were hardly blinking. They were so wide open. I gripped the knife firmly and yelled, "This is where you get out." He stayed still. He didn't even break into a grin. He just twisted his head, as though bewildered animal. He then paused for a moment and with no speaking words strode into the woods. There has never been a sleepless night like this which ended. Right at the daybreak, we grabbed and took off as quickly as we could toward the spot where we had seen the group. It was empty. No tents. No campers. Just the cold ashes from the fire that was lit. When we were back in the park station again, we informed the ranger of the eerie incident. His face turned white. Instead of saying a word, he placed a photo of a missing person on the counter. It was him. Exact same featureless stare. Dark curly hair falling over the side. This is a picture of a man who disappeared more than 20 years ago. I am 27 years old. I live in Oregon. Last year, I and my buddies, Eric, Matt, and Leo, traveled on our camper van to the north of California. We had in mind just to do some hiking, have some drinks, and enjoy our free time without anybody around. However, everything turned out to be completely different. We erected our tent at an extensive distance from the hiking paths located in the forest and close to the other campers. It was a night of blackness, but we spent some time roasting marshmallows and showing the campfire sitting, talking, and laughing. It was so quiet, then it was deserted. We could only find such a peace between wild fields. Just before midnight, Matt stood up to use the restroom. He said something like a stupid joke and vanished behind the trees. He was never back. Up to that time, we did not think much of it, hence, we continued to talk thinking that he was trying to prank us. However, we realized something was amiss. The time outreached the normal time limit. We started to call his name. No response. At that point, we grabbed our flashlights and went for a search. We managed to track his footprints, which were very fresh and quite easy to follow on the path covered by the small creek. But at a short distance from the water, I was feeling alone, unless with the trees. No indications of a fight. No drag marks. He just disappeared suddenly, as if through a magic trick. We looked for him, of which we could not get any sign of him, shouted out his name, checked behind the trees, even looked inside the water to no avail. The forest was totally silent. There were no crickets, no movement of leaves, just total silence. As daybreak was approaching, we went on foot to the ranger station that was the nearest one in order to get help there. The search party was organized, but the team was unable to locate him. The weirdest thing was that Matt's wallet and phone were both inside the tent, as though he had not meant to go out. The one day, thus, I got a text message. A call from Matt. "Do you believe someone took me?" It felt like my stomach dropped down to the floor. It seemed that I was shivering. We called the police right away. They traced the phone that night. The noise was heard from the same camp area. The moment they got there, there was a clear area with nobody inside, no signs of Matt, no phone, and no footprints. Only an area without anything, but it was enclosed with trees, as if he was just an illusion in the first place. Thank you for diving into the darkness with Sinister Tales X. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss a new tale of terror. Until next time, stay safe. And remember, the most sinister tales are often closer than you think.